Hey guys, it's Joe. I'm here today with my friend Devani. She's been gracious enough to be interviewed by me today. She's going to talk to us a little bit about her experiences with anxiety, and she's also a yoga instructor, so she's going to talk to us a little bit about that. So I guess just a kind of a blanket question. What has your experience with anxiety been in your own life?
I dealt with anxiety for a really long time and didn't know that that's what it was for a really long time. But I didn't really know what it was probably until after college. I started to kind of gain more of an understanding of it's not that everything is awful and terrible all the time. It's that my head convinces me that it's awful and terrible all the time as a way to torture me. And so kind of just generally learning to deal with that.
I know we were talking before, and people always say, like, try yoga for anxiety. Like, that's the number one thing that everyone says if you Google it. It's like, yoga will fix everything. So Devani is actually a yoga instructor. So tell us about yoga and anxiety.
So there are a lot of aspects about yoga practice in the way that it was traditionally taught that can definitely help with anxiety. There are practices that you can learn from yoga. There are poses that you can learn from yoga that can help and have helped me occasionally. But I, as a yoga instructor, would not necessarily say that yoga has helped my anxiety. Mm-hmm. For me, actually, a more effective tool has been running.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I actually had a doctor recommend it to me when I saw someone for panic attacks, and he's like, no, if you keep running, your body kind of learns that response, like that kind of heartbeat heightened sense, because it's a very similar reaction to when a panic attack starts.
Yeah.
If you can kind of learn to get comfortable with that sensation, it might give you a little bit of extra time to respond to your panic attack before it overtakes. But it is something that has helped me kind of learn to recognize them better and provides a little bit of extra time for me in responding to them. But I think we've gotten to this place where people say, you know, I'm dealing with depression or anxiety, and everyone's like first or second response is, you need to go to yoga class with me. And that's just not true. Like that's not gonna fix everything. There are, like I said, aspects about yoga that can, but you have to really be committed to that specific practice.
For the people who are committed, for the people who do find that helpful, are there any particular practices or techniques that are especially effective for anxiety or depression?
I think one of the main things that you can gain from a deeper commitment to yoga is an understanding of how your body, your breath, and your mind actually do work together.
Okay.
So for me, part of what I really love about yoga and what really does help me is holding poses, getting into these kind of difficult places and making yourself breathe through them and try to be comfortable in them and really focused on how it feels and where you feel it and what your breath is doing can be extraordinarily helpful. Like going to yoga classes does help occasionally for me to kind of check out and really just focus on what I physically feel. And there is something kind of freeing about that in a lot of ways. You know, if you're not thinking about all the other things that are wrong, literally just, okay, I have to stay here a couple of seconds longer, don't stop breathing. There is something to be said about learning to kind of breathe through and get comfortable in positions or places that are not inherently comfortable. And that's just a really useful life tool in general.
Yeah.
But can be especially helpful for anxiety or depression.
You said you've struggled with anxiety and depression for a really long time, but you didn't really notice it or know of it, know what it was until after college. What brought you to realizing what you were actually dealing with?
I think it was that it was so pervasive. Yeah. It had lasted for so long. It didn't go away. I was living with my boyfriend. He was one of the people that kind of called my attention to the fact that maybe I should look into it being something else.
Okay.
And around the same time, I started reading Jenny Lawson's books, and the way in which she described some of these things was really real to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
It kind of made me start to put names to these things that I, for a really long time, had just kind of assumed were things that were wrong with me or my attitude
Yeah.
of the world.
Oh, yeah. Just have a bad attitude or
Just
whatever.
smile.
Yeah. When I was dealing with the idea of anxiety and depression, I used to think that they were these, like, yeah, some people had, like, clinical depression or a problem with anxiety, but, like, I definitely didn't. I was just having a hard time or, you know, whatever. And trying to reconcile this idea that that is actually what I was dealing with was really difficult for me to do and face that. How did you feel coming to terms with that in your own life?
I think I felt a little bit of that, and there's a part of me that's still concerned that talking about this will one day come back on me in some negative way. A lot of that has to do with how stigmatized these issues are, even though a huge portion of the population deals with them.
Yeah.
And most people fall somewhere on the spectrum of mental health issues at some point in their life, if not the entire time. And I think one thing that really helped me was kind of starting to pay attention to people who did talk about it.
Okay.
Carrie Fisher was one of the huge ones for me that helped me kind of like, this is something we should be talking about. It's silly that we don't when so many people deal with it. And she was so blatant and open about her issues. Her example, and again, Jenny Lawson's, were really big influences on my willingness to talk about these issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's not easy to talk about it, and they are still stigmatized, I feel like, even though it is more of a public conversation.
One of the things that I have especially noticed in entering more into this conversation is that it's still very much centered within white women.
Interesting. Okay.
The
I can see
majority
that
of people
actually.
that you see talking publicly about it are white women, which isn't a bad thing inherently, but it does say that we still have a lot of work to do to get to a place where other people are more comfortable talking about these kind of things. And I think we, as just people who have any kind of platform, whatever it is, we have kind of a responsibility to make sure that other people have space to talk about these things and don't feel stigmatized by talking about these things as well.
Was there anything in particular that made you more comfortable talking about this, whether it was with, you know, a significant other or with family members or with friends or on a public platform? Because I know a lot of people are scared to use those words or use those labels or even talk to their doctors about it. So was there a moment, or was it just kind of time, or what was it for you?
I don't think there was any like particular moment. I got mad. I was frustrated with these words being so stigmatized. I was frustrated with my anxiety making it hard for me to go places. I got to this place where I was just really mad, and I was mad that it was such a stigmatized thing, and I was mad that it wasn't okay to talk about it. I got really frustrated with the stigma of it, and I got really frustrated with this idea of how we treat it and how we talk about it. And it actually takes a lot of courage and a lot of guts to talk about these issues. And I just got frustrated, and I was like, no, I'm done. I'm done not addressing it. I'm done pretending everything's okay. And it was kind of like a giant fuck you to my mental disorders, you know? Like, I'm done dealing with you this way. I'm not doing it that way anymore.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and I definitely feel that as well. I hear that. Well, thank you seriously so much for being willing to come and talk about this with me, especially on short notice. Really, it means a lot to me that you're willing to talk about issues that are still a little challenging to talk about, but I think adding your voice to this goes a long way to making them less difficult for everyone to speak about. So thank you for doing that.
Of course.
I'm Jo Beckwith. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel or follow my Facebook page, and I look forward to seeing you next time.